Yes, people, welcome back to the SPTC podcast. I, as always, am your host, Jay Mcintosh, joined by Mr. Simon Phillips, who looks like he's ready to go to football training. If you can't see him, if you don't watch it, if you listen to it. Is that a Pilkington United top on, Si?
It is, yeah. Pilton United.
Oh, you love it. Did
We
I get the
haven't.
name right
Yeah, you did. Well, no. How did you say it?
then? Pilkington? What is it?
Pilton.
Pilton.
It's
Pilton
where the
United.
Glastonbury Festival is. It's literally where Glastonbury Festival is. It's called the Pilton Festival to locals.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's cool to
Yeah.
know. Okay, nice. Well, welcome back, 2026. Things have been quiet for Chelsea, haven't they, Si? There's been absolutely nothing going on.
Not missed
Um,
much, have we?
There's been no outrage about an article on the website. There's been no change of managers. There's been no poor results. Everything's been smooth sailing as far as I'm aware. How's it been for you?
Yeah, no, it's to be honest, it might have been good in a way that we haven't been on here for 2 weeks. Yeah, there's been some crazy things happening, but as we expect from Chelsea, really, isn't it, these days?
Yeah,
Um,
it certainly is. It certainly is. I think let's just start by setting the scene for everyone that we know that everyone that listens to this will know what's happened with Maresca, what's going on now with Liam Rosenior, and will have seen and watched the Chelsea games in between the sort of period we lasted to show up to now. Si and I said just before recording that there's probably not too much about the Fulham game that's worthy of analysis. We'll obviously dive into it a little bit because there are certainly a few talking points, but it's more just a sort of scene set now for 2026 because I don't know, Si, but did you have any sort of idea that Chelsea would be going into 2026 in the sort of position and state that they are, both on the pitch and off the pitch?
I think the signs were there at the start of December. I don't think I mean, we've been inconsistent all season, let's be honest. All bar, the odd game here and there. Barcelona was obviously a very good one. Played well against Arsenal, but didn't win. There's been many good games, good performances, but I think you could see the clear element of consistency that we just haven't got right now, and it's been in every single game. I think even the games where we have won, we haven't played well for the full game, and I think 95% of our matches have been completely different first half to second half. So I don't think we've been solid. I don't think we've been a team. I mean, me and you predict score lines every week, and I don't think we've ever been that confident with most of the games we've approached that we're going to win them. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether that's been down to the manager or been down to the squad build. Obviously, it's an element of both. I think if you really deep it, Maresca is, he's gone now, but I think there's things that he could have done or hasn't done. But the biggest issue for me is that the squad is still lacking certain things to see games through, to win games, to play well from start to finish, to cut out the silly little mistakes, and obviously the disciplinary issues that we're going to talk about in a minute. So there's so many things across the board from the very bottom of the club to the top of the club that are just not aligning right now, and just still clear issues that are going wrong. And I think that the only way we're going to get through this is some stability, but stability only comes when you keep a manager, and they've just removed another manager and hired their sixth manager in 3 years. So yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, I felt like something was coming, especially at the end of December. The results were terrible. The form was terrible. Maresca was out in the media, speaking about the owners, which you cannot do, and he's paid the price for it, and he's left the club. So yeah, I mean, I sensed it was coming. I didn't think it would be this soon. I thought it would be in the summer, but mid-season change that Chelsea didn't want to do, and now they've done it, and let's hope it pays off. You are mute, Jay.
Oh, sorry, as I'm mute then. I sing from the same hymn sheet as you, to be fair. And I think the point you made at the start of your answer there is probably the most important point, which is that top down there are issues, and that's the thing, right? It's top down. I don't really know how many Chelsea fans are like infuriated, frustrated, not happy with Maresca. I think every fan has opinions on what happens on the pitch and off the pitch, and that's the right of every fan to have them. I don't think that. I mean, this is just me sort of hypothesizing. I don't think Chelsea fans would have voted Maresca out. If fans would have had that vote, I don't think that would have happened. However, I think Chelsea would vote for a change of ownership if they were given that, and I think that's the key element, is that no matter what happens on the pitch, if what's going on off the pitch isn't working well, it's actually going to have a massive impact on the pitch. And United are in the same boat, by the way. Chelsea and United are kind of the same thing, just in very different ways. The outcome is broadly similar. It's like fascists and communists. Essentially, you get to the same point. Eventually, you just go a completely different way around. And I think, some of the things that you can exemplify of how disjointed are with Chelsea. One of the things I read was, obviously, Maresca had a 5-year contract. Rosenior's got a 6.5-year deal, which we can come on to in a bit, because there are break clauses and stuff, and it's not quite as simple as he's going to be here for 6.5 years. But since Blueco have been here, they've handed out 18.5 years worth of managerial contracts, and they've only been here 3.5 years. Like, that is more than 5x the time they've been here. It's absolutely insane. And there's just no joined up thinking. There's no, we know this. We knew it from the moment Bowley and Barley fell out, and it was all public, and everybody knew that there was a sort of disjointed way in which they saw the club going. Maybe it's something we can discuss later on at some point, but I kind of feel like fans would have liked the Bowley model a little bit more. He got it wrong, but I think fans might like that idea in principle more, which is signing experienced players who are ready to win now consistently. Because I think Chelsea fans are very conscious that they're going to look and turn into a Dortmund or a Leipzig. You know what I mean? A feeder club for the top 7. And we've heard sort of quotes come out about how Chelsea can't compete with sort of the big 7 clubs in the world, which I'm not sure I agree with fully. But there are actually some truths laced within that, especially when it comes to attendance at matches and things like that. But it's clearly disjointed. It's clearly not ideal. And I've spoken to sources at the club who are very, very concerned about the fact that they don't believe that under this ownership, Chelsea are going to be challenging for league titles at any point. And these are issues that aren't just on the pitch. These are off the pitch. I heard recently that Chelsea players weren't allowed by the higher ups to do Chelsea's own media stuff around hospital visits over Christmas. They're not allowed to have direct engagement with Chelsea content people, because they're so protected and so mollycoddled, and nothing's working out, nothing is lined up, and it's very, very frustrating for people at the club. And obviously we see it on the pitch that performances are disjointed, consistency is just non-existent. The only consistent thing about the on the pitch football is that it is inconsistent. And this is kind of the state of play that we find ourselves in yet again. And it's kind of unsurprising. It's almost a bit boring at this point. I think Chelsea fans are finding it tedious. I'm not a pro Roman Abramovich guy in any way. I obviously respect what he did for the club as a football club owner. I think as a football club owner, he was a very good one. As a human being, a very questionable one. But these guys don't really know what they're doing, I don't think. And I don't think just buying the best young players as you would on Career Mode or Football Manager necessarily works out. And equally, we all know that players and managers are being told who kind of to play when and how players should be managed. And I don't necessarily think that's appropriate. And so we end up at a point where we are January the 8th. Liam Rosenior's here, who's come under, excuse my language, shitloads of fire already for no reason whatsoever, in my opinion, because Chelsea fans believe that we deserve a superstar coach, of which there aren't really any available. I saw rumours about Luis Enrique not wanting to sign a lifelong contract at PSG because he wants a new challenge. But if you know football media in any way, French media outlets are not great. So in terms of reliability, because they're always pushing different stories, the same here. And we'll get into Rosenior in a minute, but that's kind of my general feeling, is just it's disjointed, it's tedious, it's quite dull, and actually the football doesn't offset any of it. And you can just see that things aren't great. And I'll end my monologue with the fact that I think the biggest concern for me now is, can Chelsea maintain the quality of players they have in this team, or will the top quality players be priced away somewhere else? And will they want to push for those moves? I'm guessing so, because it's looking now, by the end of this season, we'll have been 4 seasons in with Blueco and got Champions League football one of those. And that is simply unacceptable. Thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think the point at the end there with the big players and becoming discontent, I think that's already happening. In fact, I know it's already happening. They want to be challenging for the Premier League title and the Champions League. They don't want to just qualify for it, which is what the owners are setting as our minimum target. It's important to say minimum target every season, but they won't be happy with that. Just qualifying for the Champions League. They want to be up there competing, and players, but by those kind of players, I mean the big players that we wouldn't want to lose, your Cole Palmers, your Caicedos, your Enzo Fernandez. Those players will become discontent. Some of them already are becoming discontent with where this club is going and the direction and the pathway that we're taking, because we're 8th in the league right now. That's a fact, and that's mid-season. So we've got a long way to go to even just qualify for Europe this season. We're closer to 15th, I think, than 3rd at the moment, or 2nd at the moment. So there's a big gap between us and Arsenal, and that where Arsenal is now is where the majority of the players want to be in our team. So
of course,
we're not there. And will we be there next season? We don't know. We don't know what Liam's going to be like when he comes in. We don't know. We don't know how the rest of the season is going to go. It's so inconsistent, so up and down. Our saving grace is that everyone else around us, or most of the other teams around us, is just as up and down as what we are. The league jumps around all over the place, and even Liverpool are stuttering, and they're not that far ahead of us. So there is that saving grace. We can turn it around in 3 games. We could be right back up there again, but it's not knowing, it's the inconsistency, it's the lack of stability. Starting again with a new manager, everyone gets a fresh start and this, that, and the other. And I know they say that Liam is going to play the same sort of football as what Maresca played, which is fine, but there's going to be clear differences in how he acts, how he wants people to play, the positions he wants people to play in, his instructions. So it's all got to be learned again. So how much time do we give that? I've seen some people saying this morning that he gets a free pass for the rest of this season, but does he? Because no, of course he doesn't, because Chelsea don't want to finish out of the Champions League places. They don't want to be mid-table or where they are now. So he doesn't get a free pass, and he's got to get results straight away. But how long is that going to take? It's a good start this weekend, though, but well, it should be.
Yeah, it should do. I mean, to be honest, let's talk about Rosenior then a little bit, because this podcast can just be moaning, and I don't want to just moan to start the year off, because there are positive things about Rosenior, and I think they're getting lost. And actually, do you know what? There's obviously discourse around how important it is as a sort of representative appointment, a Black British manager, which obviously people are seeing as a progressive move, which I understand. I also just think that the position is and should be for the person that's best qualified, regardless of who they are, where they're from, what they look like. But I can understand the benefit of the progressive nature of that. Secondly, I know we have listeners from all over the world on this show side, but as a British man, same as you, seeing a British coach at a big job is great. I love to see that, and I want nothing more than for him to do well, as does everybody else. I think his job at Strasbourg has been a little bit underrated. Yes, they've spent a lot, but they're Strasbourg. This is I actually was speaking to Daniel Childs earlier about Keith Andrews, the Brentford manager. Most people had Brentford to go down this year, if not to be in and around that space. Brentford are 5th. They've battered Sunderland last night as well. Obviously, Igor Thiago is getting a lot of plaudits, first Brazilian to score over 15 goals in a season in the Premier League ever. And he looks really good, although some people are not overly convinced. But the point about Keith Andrews that I made was that, do you know what? People can come in unexpectedly and do very, very well. They just need to, be able to implement quickly and get those results. Keith Andrews started a little slowly, but now things are picking up. Rosenior might not be afforded the grace of starting slowly for things to pick up. I think tactically, I wonder whether Chelsea fans will feel comfortable with the fact that he likes to sort of operate with how do we say, a 3-4-2-1 that goes into a 4-2-3-1, and out of possession is a 3-2-5. I'm not sure how Chelsea fans feel with three at the back. I like it. Other fans don't. I know that. I think, having watched Strasbourg and tried to do as best I can to understand Rosenior's tactics, the thing that will cause Chelsea fans concern is the short passing in our own box and around our own area in our own defensive third, because that is just not fun in any way, because we've just seen so consistently that players can't do it. However, I like the way his teams build attacks. And I also think he deserves a lot of praise when, if you look at the team he had in his first season at Strasbourg compared to his second, they're massively different. They're hugely different. And yet he maintained consistency in the league. They're also top of the Conference League, unbeaten, which actually Crystal Palace should be. So it's not like things have been poor. I can't think of a Strasbourg player that's got worse under Rosenior. I can actually only point to players that I think have got better. Valentin Barco being a major one. I think Valentin Barco is a superstar player in the making. Diego Moura as well, superstar player in the making. There's been reports that Omega and him have a bit of a frosty relationship, but I think that can be patched over. Penders as well has been flawless basically for Strasbourg and looks phenomenal. Even Chilwell looks very good. We know he's a good player, but he looks very good there. And so there are real positives here. And actually, do you know, just because he's not Luis Enrique doesn't mean he can't come in and do a brilliant job. Maresca was a relative unknown. Liam Rosenior at the top level is now a relative unknown. That doesn't mean he's going to do poorly, and it doesn't mean that he's far beneath what Chelsea need. We just have to wait and see what that means and what that looks like. I would normally say, and we've said on this show, we like to give people, players, managers 18 months, right? But actually, Chelsea managers only get 18 months before they kind of get kicked out. Again, Daniel and I were saying that what Chelsea do is they have a honeymoon period and then an instant divorce. They don't have the period in between where you give time for things to settle, you give time to work out routine, you give time to understand how each other work, and the club don't allow for that. And I think that's really detrimental to the development of the team. People like Delap, who have worked with Rosenior before, I think will be happy about the opportunities that he may get. And I believe in him as a very, very good coach. And every single person who's worked with him, either as a player or as a coach, or someone who's been in coaching management classes with him, Wayne Rooney being a prime example, who himself is a terrible coach, but actually said Rosenior was by far and away the standout that he's worked with when he's been doing his badges and learning and coaching. So, I think the sort of snobbery around Chelsea only wanting the super cream of the crop elite needs to kind of fade. And actually, there isn't really a market for that, I don't think, at the moment. The only other one I would have gone for was I'd have tried to get Inzaghi away, if that were possible. But even then, it's not really, because he earns 20 million a year in Saudi and he's probably enjoying himself. So we are where we are. Tactically, he's not going to be overly different from Maresca. One of the things that the team don't do, or his teams don't do, is play long balls. So it's lots and lots of short passing. Instant counter-pressing when they lose the ball. Very aggressive attacks. And what Rosenior likes to do is, rather than having lots of chances, he'd rather have fewer very, very, very high-quality chances. And we'll see how that works out in the team and whether the players can adapt to it. I don't know. You'd like to think that some of these players are the best in the world, so it won't take them too long to adapt to a system that's not going to be overly different from what they currently play. But I think he at least deserves the grace and the ample opportunity to give things a go and to get things wrong and to work things out. Yes, Chelsea need to qualify for Champions League football, but there are other ways, I think, to offset that for this season, given the turmoil that we've gone through. Personally, I think that if Chelsea were to get a domestic trophy and, finish 5th or 6th, that could be seen as acceptable given the circumstances now. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think he's got to get a certain amount of points, hasn't he, this season? Maybe something realistic that that is achievable. If he gets below a certain amount of points from the remaining games that he's got left, then yeah, I can't see any Chelsea fan allowing it to go on. But I completely agree with everything you said on Liam. I think I've obviously I hold my hands up. I don't have time to watch Strasbourg or any other team really apart from Chelsea. Obviously, I watch Premier League, so I can't say that I've seen his coaching or this, that, and the other. But I've done a lot of reading and I've watched a lot of videos this week. And I think the most important thing that I read was from a former Derby player who played under Rooney when Liam was Rooney's assistant. And he basically contributed 90% of the success that Derby had in that good spell that they had, was all down to Liam's coaching and how Liam was with the players. Like nothing to do with Wayne Rooney.
No,
as you mentioned.
Yes, and you know what? Like for those of you who are listening or watching that aren't necessarily from the UK or don't keep up with football in the UK outside of the Premier League, it's quite easy to forget that whilst it's maybe not ideal for a Chelsea managerial candidate, taking Hull from 21st in the Championship to the top 8, to climb the table in the Championship like that's really difficult. That league is brutal to manage in. It really, really is, especially if you're not in one of those yo-yo positions there. And I think that's a really impressive thing to do. Like I said with Strasbourg, his first season finished 7th, then Petrovic was sold, Back was sold to Forest, who was brilliant the other day. Santos recalled by Chelsea, Omega signed by Chelsea and then injured the whole time. Diarra, who was the captain of the team, was sold to Sunderland, who's been brilliant. He then received Paez and Enciso, Amugu and Chilwell and others, and is still 7th. It's not... And France is a difficult league to be in, actually, if you're not one of the very, very top ones. Obviously, Lens are having a good season at the moment, but they seem to do that one every 4 years. PSG win it anyway. And French football has a real history of high-quality teams. So to bring Strasbourg into that space, it's kind of, I know this is going to go down really badly, but it's kind of what Brighton did, which is enter the Premier League and then sort of stay at a very good level. Brentford are doing the same thing. So we're kind of here. This is where we're at. This is what we've got to play with. I think the concern is, does Cole Palmer go somewhere? Does Enzo go somewhere? The problem is, if someone wants them, they're going to have to pay an unbelievable amount of money. But that's not impossible, right?
But if you look at what Liam's walking into right now at Chelsea, and at the end of this terrible, well, not the end of this terrible run of form, it could go on and on and on, but the form that we're in right now, he's been approached. He said, "Look, we want you to take the job. Do you want it?" He's instantly said, "Yeah, I want it." Like he was building something at Strasbourg. I felt like really he should have stayed there and kept developing, but he said, "No, Chelsea are calling. You can't turn that down." And for him to look at the situation from the outside now at Chelsea and say, "Yes, I'm going to take it, and yes, we're going to succeed straight away," is for me a very strong mentality. I don't think many people in his position would have took that opportunity on right now, looking at how the results were going and how things have been. But he obviously has a lot of belief in the players that he's got there at Chelsea. He obviously believes that he can get them playing well and get them results.
As he should, yeah.
As you should. And and we all say, like, the bottom line is actions speak louder than words, but the way he does speak is incredible. And if he can follow that up now with actions and results, then I really think Chelsea fans will not take long to fall in love with him and fully back him. I really think he's got that aura, I guess, or that appeal about him, and the way he talks. I think he could easily get Chelsea fans on side fully with some good results, some good performances, and it's not going to take that long.
No, and let's try to be objective here. If you look at the Chelsea squad on paper, it's class. And actually, if you look at the players, for example, let's take Penders. Penders will likely be the Chelsea first team goalkeeper next season. I'm assuming, although Sanchez has actually been brilliant this year overall. But one would assume that it is Penders. And we know the team. Reece is one. I think Reece is one of the best football players in the world. Period. Hato has been excellent, I think, recently. Cucurella, besides a poor, silly red card against Fulham, which was a red card, so just is what it is the best defensive left back in the world. I still think there's question marks around the centre backs outside of Colwill. Caicedo is the best. Enzo is one of the best. He loves Santos. Santos was an absolute revelation under Rosenior at Strasbourg. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the Strasbourg guys that are out there on loan or with buyback options come in, such as Diego Moura, who, by the way, if he does come to Chelsea and can play in the Strasbourg way, fans are going to absolutely love him. He's worked with Delat before, no problem. João Pedro is extremely talented. Any manager in the world would want to work with Cole Palmer. Pedro Neto is coming in for a shed load of criticism at the moment, but I still think he's a good player. Garnacho too. There's so much potential there at that team, in that squad, that needs to be harnessed and unlocked. That if you're a manager that backs yourselves and backs what you want to do and is ambitious, it's kind of ideal, really. The problem is, as we said at the start, is above him. And what I hope is that if there are struggles that he has, there aren't things like maybe a poor substitution or the wrong lineup, because that happens. But the ire of the fans, the anger that we have, the discomfort that people feel, needs to be aimed at people at the top. Because whether it's Tuchel, Potter, whoever else, Maresca, it doesn't matter. Unless those are held accountable to the absolute level that they should be, you're going to have the same outcome. And I think that those upstairs need to back off a bit and let a manager breathe and do what he can do, because he's on the field with these players. He has the relationship, and he has the footballing brain, essentially. And the players do too, whereas actually, respectfully to Eghbali and to everyone else, they don't. They're businessmen. They're not footballers. They're not of a football mind. I would say, maybe half of the fan base probably understands football tactics better than Eghbali does. Very few will understand successful business in the way that Eghbali does. But those things really matter. And so hopefully everyone can be on side. Hopefully Rosenior can win the players over. It'll be interesting to see what happens in summer with regards to transfers and bringing people. And I can't wait to see what the squad looks like next season, because it's going to look very different. But I guess, to kind of wrap up on Rosenior for now, what are the expectations for him come the end of this season?
He has to get Champions League football. I don't think there's any two ways about it. In terms of what the board want from him and what they've told him that he needs to achieve. I'm not saying that if he doesn't achieve it, he's going to get sacked, because as we discussed a minute ago, I think he's going to have to, he can do other things like win a trophy or get to a certain number of points, play some good football, and just turn up more, be more consistent. There's other things there. So I don't think that it's a case of if he doesn't get Champions League football, he's gone. But those are the core targets every single season now that the Chelsea board have set out for whoever is in charge, and that is the achievement they have to reach. So I think, I get where people are coming from, that we can miss out, but I don't think we can. Financially we can't, and also in terms of the fan support and people still backing Chelsea, I think they'll lose every single person who might still be hanging on to something there with them. I think they'd lose everyone if we don't get Champions League football this season. So I think it's an absolute must, that as an expectation, to qualify for the Champions League. And top five will do it, won't it? I think this season.
Yeah. It should do. It should do.
So it's there, isn't it? It's
as long as we can displace Brentford.
Yeah.
or whoever else is going to be sat there. Oh God! And do you know what as well? Do you know what makes it worse, Si, is that Arsenal are going to win the league, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got no. I mean, everyone else behind them are just basically handing it to them, and it's so frustrating. At least give them a run for their money.
Yeah.
Man City drew last night, didn't they?
Yeah.
So and Liverpool are just fumbling completely. I think they need to make a manager change as well, to be honest. If they really
Liverpool
want
are 14 points off the top.
Yeah, we're close to Liverpool. Like, a couple of games could change it with us and Liverpool.
We're 3 points. 3 points off.
So it's like, no one is really challenging them. I mean, Aston Villa a bit up and down as well, but
But you know what, Si? That's where there's hope for optimism for Rosenior. And I don't necessarily mean for fans, but if I'm Rosenior, you're one win off of being fourth, essentially. It doesn't work like that, but essentially, right? Chelsea aren't out of the race for where they want to be by any stretch of the imagination at all. It just so happens that Chelsea, whilst being 3 points off fourth, are also 3 points away from 14th.
Yeah.
So it's very, very. I can't remember the league being like this at any point ever. And it's actually hugely exciting when it's put that way because the quality of the league is so high. But if you're Rosenior and you're looking forward, because you should be looking forward and not worrying about what's going on behind you, you are not far away from being in a place that would feel much more comfortable. And we said we won't analyse the Fulham game, but I'm of the belief that Chelsea could have won that game no problem. You know, XG, which people necessarily don't like, Chelsea had double the XG of Fulham last night. Absolutely should have capitalised on those moments. Fulham had 0 big chances, scored twice. Chelsea had 4 and scored once. You know, there's a few things that need tweaking, just a little bit of quality that hopefully he can dust into this team. And actually, you either look at the league and say everyone's great, or you look at the league and say everyone's kind of average and everybody's all in the same boat regardless. We got to just scramble to the top of that pile, essentially. And I hope for him, I hope for the club, and I hope for the players that they can do so. And yeah, I mean, I guess the only benefit is at the moment that there aren't Premier League games for Chelsea coming up in the next 2 fixtures. A bit of a baptism of fire, I suppose, when he has to play Arsenal in the EFL Cup. But Charlton come first. So Chelsea away at Charlton in the FA Cup in 2 days' time, 8 p.m. UK for Saturday. Charlton, a club I like a lot, actually. And then obviously Arsenal in the Carabao Cup to follow. Whilst we're here, Si, how do you feel about the Chelsea-Charlton game? Do you think we'll play a strong lineup? I'm kind of fascinated to see who's going to play, who isn't.
It's a good first game. I know it could be a potential banana skin, but I think if you're looking at first games to come in and coach Chelsea with only two training sessions, I think he'll have maybe 3. I think he might have done one already behind closed doors. So maybe 3. I think it's a good fixture to come against. I know, you know, we're away from home, but it's nice for him to be able to put his lineup out, and I do think he's going to go, like, maybe not completely strong, but I do think he's going to go pretty much.
So do I.
Our best to excel.
I think he will go for that.
He's not going to want to lose, is he? He's not going to want to lose.
Absolutely not. I think you can see, like, I think Hato might play. Delap, I think, will definitely play. Andre Santos will definitely play, I think. Other than that, I'm unsure of what he's going to do. But yeah, I think he will also go quite strong because he absolutely cannot lose that first game. If he loses against Charlton, it's really not a great way to go.
Imagine.
We have Arsenal next, which, well, we all know what that's going to be like. Arsenal look like they're not going to fall away anytime soon, really. So it'll be interesting. Do you have a score prediction for Charlton versus Chelsea, Si?
Yeah, I feel quite positive about this game. I don't know why, but I do. So I'm going for 2-0 to Chelsea.
Nice. I would have said 3-0. So I think we're both feeling kind of positive. I think, this is ostensibly looks like a good place to start, and hopefully that can kind of follow on. Outside of Rosenior, Maresca kind of beefing with the owner's side, there's been no transfer chat, has there?
No, it's so quiet. It's so quiet. I don't even think we're going to do anything at all this January, apart from obviously 1 or 2 player sales. But even that's tough at the moment. They're trying to get Disasi out the door. His agents are literally offering him to every club around, and nobody has quite taken the bait with him yet. A few nibbles, but nothing advanced, nothing solid. And same with Sterling. His agents are trying to get him a new club. So, I still think those 2 will probably go. Tyreek George as well is expected to go. At the moment, Chelsea as a club are trying to help facilitate his move away this month, but they want the right fee for him if it's going to be a permanent deal. So that could always boil over till the summer. But yeah, in terms of incomings, which is what everyone wants to know about, you can't fully write it off because there's always opportunities that Chelsea will look at, like the Semenyo thing. They did attempt, they at least inquired about signing him. So if anything like that comes up, and there's a couple of other situations as well that I'm not actually allowed to release the info on yet because, yeah.
It's tantalising, Si. You're tantalising the audience, I see.
I'll let you know after the show why I can't release that info, but hopefully the listeners will understand. It all depends on who tells you the info, and I've got to abide by what they tell me because otherwise then they won't give me info again. So, but there is one potential player or situation that Chelsea could move on this window, but yeah, that might come out in the next few days.
I'm praying it's the Mudryk return. That's what I'm praying for, Si, the Mudryk return. That's all I want now. I love that guy. I've loved that guy always.
It's not that, sorry.
That's a real shame. Okay.
He's got a new look about him, hasn't he, Mudryk? He's got a fresh
Mate, I love Mudryk so much. I've always rated Mudryk. I really love this guy. I just want it to work. I can't wait until the day he's back in a Chelsea shirt, if ever that happens. Bring him back. Honestly, bring him back.
I'm not with you there. Sorry, mate.
I know. I don't think anyone else is, but I love the guy. So hopefully one day we see it. Right, let's leave it there. We'll end on a bit of silliness. Listen, let's hope Chelsea get the result against Charlton. When do we play Arsenal? On a Wednesday. So we'll be back on Thursday. So we'll review Charlton and Arsenal next Thursday. Obviously, score predictions for Arsenal are a little bit harder to do, but I know there'll be pieces out on the site and all those kind of things in between. But I think the focus now is Charlton. Let's see what happens. Let's see how things sort of materialise going forward. And yeah, once again, things are very interesting at Chelsea FC, and the roller coaster continues, and we all have to sit strapped in for some reason that we choose to stay on there. So the game's the game. Chelsea continue to be Chelsea, and let's just hope that Rosenior gets a strong start against Charlton, and hopefully the fans can get behind him and the players too, and continue on the path to what we hope is greater success, I suppose. Until then, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.